great to have you here at Noise 11 and another Sun Little tour coming to Australia. When I say another Sun Little tour, I mean they've been few and far between, isn't it? This is what, number two?
Yeah, number two. I
Yeah,
mean,
taken
man,
you
I
a while
wish
to get back.
it sure has. I wish it hadn't taken so long. I was, I wish I could have stayed longer the first time.
Well, this time
But
round, you've got four albums because you really came down on the first record
yeah,
last
that's
time. So
funny. True.
yeah, when we have you down here for the Australian tour for 2023, you'll be performing songs that you've never done down here before.
Yeah, a lot. It's interesting.
Mm.
I've also never, when I came alone the first time, so that was a unique experience, and actually, it's interesting because now I take it as it's second nature. I've been sort of splitting time between doing gigs with a band and doing them solo with acoustic guitar.
As I mentioned, four albums and four very unique albums in content, particularly with the new album, Like Neptune, is a deeply personal album. And I guess, it's both a confronting record to listen to for the listener, but I would assume it's also a cleansing album for you.
I think the thing that's sticking out for me a lot these days is just really being able to appreciate the process of what I'm doing. I think that while I'm proud of previous records and my earlier efforts, um, you know, the experience of like birthing those projects wasn't always pretty for me. And so I've just really learned, I think, of late to really appreciate the process. I love putting all these things together, bringing all the different sounds and all my ideas. I just love doing that. So I think this record, like Neptune, as heavy as some of the themes can be, or as heavy as some of the things I've experienced to get to this point are, the music itself is very playful, and that's um, that's just the joy of being able to share these gifts this way.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess because the album is such an honest album, it's not something that you could have spoken about on the first couple of albums, really, isn't it? It's something that you would have had to have found yourself musically as an artist. You would have had to have discovered that level of musicality with yourself before you could layer over the stories of these songs.
it's funny, I was thinking about this earlier that as you write, you have a voice and writing as I think there's probably very few people that just say what they want to say exactly the first time. You know, you have a process of writing and editing and taking things away and bringing things back. And that's all your voice. I think very often in the past, I have really censored myself sometimes, and um, that it felt really good on this record to just not do that, to kind of accept that things don't always make sense, that uh, sometimes you have feelings and the feelings not like it's not pretty, it's not right, so to speak. I have a lyric in the song, "What's Good." I want to be the only one you love. You know, it's a very irrational thing to say. It's not fair. I mean, to expect of someone to restrict their love only to you, it's a completely unreasonable request and not possible. But I think part of the beauty of it for me this time around was being like, I'm gonna let myself, you know, I'm gonna let myself cross that boundary because it's a song, you know. it's a feeling that you have, and it might be like a baby probably feels that way.
When I line up the four albums, you can really see a musical trajectory that really goes back to that first album. I guess that was guided by an external producer, wasn't it? And
The first one, no.
add a drummer and a couple of backing singers in there.
Yeah, well, this is yeah, I mean, I also draw a line right back to the first one. I mean, it's kind of just that, you know, and some of this was just situational, is that, you know, I wasn't getting out anywhere, we're all inside. Um, I don't have, I didn't have a full setup at that time. And like I was living in a small space, um, which, really took me back to my early years of doing all this, where it was basically just drum machine and guitar. Um, and then I would sing over it. That's not quite what I ended up with, but you know, it's like a lot of people, I really live by this. The constraints are kind of what makes the art sometimes, or at least it forces you to um, come up with creative solutions for
Mm.
things, and if you have one like that, like in this case, it's like the core of this song has to be in the box, it's got to be, because that's what I have at my fingertips right now. I bought a Ableton push controller, and I started playing with that. I've been resisting that for a long time, and it's been a long time since I had when I started, I used an MPC, and that was the first real, like, I love playing guitar, but the first instrument that I really like loved was that MPC. Um, and I hadn't really had that feeling again
Mm.
until I started playing with this push. And um, so there's a little element there too, where it was like I felt like I was back in West Philly with my MPC, just kind of, really just trying to find a groove, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you
And
enjoy
it'd been a
bringing
while.
sounds into the studio? I think I didn't mean a thing. Am I hearing Hammond organ on that?
Yeah, I had a friend who my friend Eric Finland played. He's played with me sometimes live. Um, I had another guy who's played D Vibes, my guy in Denver, Colorado. He plays some on the record. So I always have, like, I always want to get some other voices, but this is probably the least out external influence that I've had, really, of the four. This one is the most kind of self-contained, where I got it pretty much to the finish line alone, and then sort of involve people after the fact.
Hmm. Uh, Lyrically, for this record, was there a hint of that in days gone by with the song "Demon to the Dark"? Have I always been a sinner, or did the world pick me apart? You talk about all my daytime friends are pills in that. So, like I draw a line lyrically with that song to what you're talking about with the new album, Like Neptune.
That song, while it's not like, I would never say any song is 1,000% biographical, but and it may not be, but it definitely, that I think I would say is me kind of like looking at, maybe for the first time, like really looking at my coping mechanisms,
Mm.
at my uh yeah, like my grieving, um, like looking at trauma like squarely in the face, you know. I don't know if I'd say for the first time, but that's one example of it.
Does that make it difficult to perform these songs live for you then? Because you're telling some very personal stories.
Yeah,
I can imagine telling those personal stories in a studio, but then, when you're in a room with 1,000 people, it must
yeah.
be, uh, I guess, very confronting that you're telling these stories to that many people at one time.
It's just like any other song I've written. The life of the song is really defined by those moments.
When I again look at the four albums lined up, 1, 2, and 4, musically have a lot in common. Is Aloha the odd man out for you?
It's different. I mean, the circumstances are very different, you know. Um, it's the only it's the only one where the bulk of what you're hearing was done in the same place. And that place has a distinct sound. It's also the only project where, I was sort of going into it with a bunch of music and lost it. And I think because of that, there was a mood shift, and I found this other mood that I didn't know was there.
So with the tour that's coming up, does the show itself center around Like Neptune, or are we seeing a showcase of the four albums?
It'll be a mixture. Um, yeah, there's certain things that um, I mean, there's certain things that I almost always play, and then I try to just I don't know if it's just a mood in the air, like a few weeks before I'll put a put a list together and we'll focus on certain things. But yeah, I think you can expect a good dose of all four. I mean, we gotta catch up. We got catching up to do here.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Albums 2, 3, and 4 have not been played
yeah,
out here before.
yes, I'm gonna do what I can. I mean, it's hard. It gets harder and harder. The making the list is can be kind of difficult these days. But we'll put something. I always think of something. So we'll careful choices to be made.
Well, there's
I
plenty
mean,
of
I don't
great
know. I
music
don't.
to fill a couple of hours.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the curfews are like at these places, but depending on that, maybe we stretch it out a little bit and get a few
You're going to
extra.
do a Bruce Springsteen 4-hour show, are you?
I mean,
Just play
I
play the
would say
four
that
albums in full.
that might be asking a lot, but yeah, I mean, you never know. Sometimes it definitely feels like we could go on and on, So we'll see. I'll ask when I get there. So what's our heart cut off?
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Well, looking forward to seeing you back in Australia, Aaron, with more Sun Little shows coming up in, September, October, so not too far off.
Can't
Pack your
wait.
bags. It's time.
I'm ready to go. I'll go right now. Yeah,
See you soon.
thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Please hang up and try again.